Okay, let's get into this. I mean, if you feel like the world of AI is just accelerating, maybe shifting under your feet every single week, well, you're definitely not alone. We're seeing new capabilities pop up constantly, some pretty unexpected partnerships, and the basic tech, the stuff powering it all, just keeps advancing.
It really is more than just a feeling. The pace is genuinely breathtaking sometimes. What was cutting edge, like yesterday, is almost foundational today, and that enables entirely new things.
Exactly. And you, our listener, you've given us this fantastic stack of sources, articles, notes, some research capturing some really significant recent movements. So our mission here in this deep dive is to take these specific news items and figure out, okay, what do they tell us about where AI is heading right now? It's about connecting those dots.
Yeah, connecting the dots between things that might seem separate at first glance. We've got updates on powerful new models, how AI is showing up in tools you might use every day, significant moves in the hardware, the chips that make it all run, and even a glimpse into creating totally new kinds of interactive digital experiences. It's quite a mix.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. Let's start at the core.
Yeah.
The models themselves, because that's usually where we see the raw power and the new capabilities first emerge. Your sources pointed to an update for DeepSeek's R1 reasoning AI model.
That's right. DeepSeek, they're a Chinese startup that really turned some heads earlier this year. Their original R1 model was challenging some of the biggest players out there, and now they've released an updated version. It sort of quietly appeared on Hugging Face after, a brief announcement on WeChat that described it as just a minor upgrade.
Minor. Hmm. When you look at the details from the source, that feels like quite an understatement, maybe. I mean, it's under a permissive MIT license, which is great, right? Good for open development, commercial use. But the scale, it clocks in at 685 billion parameters.
685 billion, yeah.
Yeah.
And just, for perspective, parameters are essentially the values the model learns during training. They determine how it behaves, how it understands things. Think of them like billions of tiny dials the AI adjusts. A number that large, well, it immediately tells you this isn't something you're running on your phone.
Right.
Or even most high-end consumer PCs, not without some serious modifications anyway.
Yeah, that's definitely in the realm of big data centers, specialized hardware. And like you said, DeepSeek really popped because their first R1 was seen as super competitive, even against models from giants like OpenAI.
And what's particularly significant about DeepSeek, and the source notes this, is the regulatory side of things. Some U.S. regulators specifically view their tech as a potential national security risk, so that adds another layer of complexity to its development and global availability.
Okay, so we're seeing massive model scale continuing to push boundaries, but also bumping up against geopolitical realities. Interesting, but how does that kind of underlying power actually show up in your everyday life?
Well, one major way is when it gets integrated into platforms you're already using.
Exactly, which leads us perfectly to the next piece of news you shared, this partnership between xAI, Elon Musk's company, and Telegram.
Right. This feels like a big play for, widespread adoption.
Yeah.
xAI is integrating its Grok chatbot right into Telegram. For a year, apparently. And the source gives us the financials. xAI is paying Telegram a pretty substantial $300 million. That's a mix of cash and equity for this deal. And it sounds like a pretty sweet deal for Telegram, too. They stand to earn half the revenue from any xAI subscriptions that people buy directly through the Telegram app.
So that fundamentally changes things for Telegram users, doesn't it? I mean, Grok was only for Telegram premium subscribers before. This deal really suggests it's about to become much more broadly available, maybe even, for all users.
Seems likely. And what's fascinating is how this integration might actually look and feel inside the app. Based on that video, Telegram's CEO, Pavel Durov, shared on xAI's. The source mentions this. It looks like you can pin Grok right on top of your chats.
Huh. Like a persistent AI assistant right there.
Yeah.
The source also says you can access it from the search bar.
Which is interesting because that's a pattern we're seeing elsewhere, right? Like Meta AI and Instagram and WhatsApp search. Precisely. Similar idea. And the potential uses they're talking about are pretty wide-ranging. Things like getting writing suggestions, summarizing long chats or links, or even documents.
Yeah.
It could even create custom stickers, apparently. And maybe assist businesses with customer questions, help out with content moderation, lots of possibilities.
Okay, just think about that for a second. An AI assistant embedded right into your main chat app. How could that change, the flow of your conversations, your ability to quickly get info, or even how businesses interact with you on that platform? It really brings AI capabilities right into the heart of where a lot of people spend their digital time.
Totally. And, As much as we focus on the flashy models and the apps we use, none of this actually works without the underlying infrastructure. The sheer computational power these AI systems need is driving huge innovation and investment in hardware. Which brings us to AMD's recent move.
Right. Your sources highlighted that AMD acquired a startup called Enosemi.
Enosemi, yeah.
Yeah.
They specialized in designing custom materials specifically for developing silicon photonics products. That's their whole thing.
Silicon photonics. Okay, let's just pause there for a sec. What is
Right.
that exactly? The source explains it uses light photons to transmit data instead of the usual electrical signals.
Exactly. And the key benefit there is speed and efficiency. Light can carry data much faster, especially over the short distances inside servers and data centers, and it uses less power doing it. So for AMD, their stated goal with buying Enosemi is to, and I quote, accelerate their co-packaged optics innovation for AI systems.
Co-packaged optics, meaning putting the optical tech right next to the processing chips.
That's the idea. When you have models as huge and complex as that DeepSeek R1 we talked about,
Mhm.
just moving the data around within the chips, between the chips, becomes a massive bottleneck.
Mhm.
Silicon photonics, especially when co-packaged,
Mhm.
offers a way to potentially break through that logjam.
Gotcha. And the source gives a little background on Enosemi. Silicon Valley startup founded just in 2023 by guys with deep semiconductor backgrounds, Ari Novak and Matthew Straczynski. They actually build and ship these photonic integrated circuits, PICs, using things like optical interconnects for data centers.
Right. And they were pretty small before the acquisition, like 16 employees as of May, raised only about $150,000 in venture funding. It's interesting that Ari Novak is now listed as a Silicon Design Engineering Fellow at AMD.
Huh? And this acquisition is also AMD's first real move since that much bigger ZT Systems deal, parts of which they actually ended up selling off later. So this feels pretty targeted.
Absolutely. It underscores their commitment to AI infrastructure. AMD's CEO recently said their AI chip revenue hit, what, $5 billion in 2024 alone?
Wow.
Yeah, they are clearly betting big on this market, and grabbing specialized expertise like Enosemi's is a strategic way to stay competitive right at the foundational tech layer.
So, okay, while you listening might not directly interact with a silicon photonics product, the speed and capability of the AI systems you do use, whether it's a chatbot, search, a creative tool, that performance is directly dependent on this kind of behind-the-scenes hardware stuff. Faster, more efficient data movement basically means the AI can handle more complex things and maybe respond quicker.
Yeah, exactly. And building on that theme, what becomes possible with this better infrastructure, your sources paint a picture of a totally new kind of digital experience starting to emerge. These interactive digital worlds powered by AI.
Right, this is where that company Odyssey comes in. They've developed a new AI model that can apparently stream interactive 3D worlds.
Yeah, the way it's described is fascinating. It feels like you're exploring inside a video,
Huh?
almost like walking around in a really high-fidelity 3D rendered game scene, but it's being streamed to you. They have a web demo.
And the technical bit that stands out is it generates and streams video frames every 40 milliseconds. That's fast.
Super fast. And at its core, the tech is based on what they call a world model. It's basically an AI designed to predict the next state of a virtual world. It looks at the current state, any actions the user takes, and the history of what's happened, and figures out what the next frame should look like.
And the model's reportedly capable of generating pretty realistic pixels, keeping things spatially consistent, learning actions just from watching video, and about outputting coherent, explorable streams for like 5 minutes or more.
Mm-hmm. And Odyssey isn't alone here. The source mentions other big names working on world models: DeepMind, World Labs, Microsoft, Descartes. They're all aiming for applications in interactive media, sure, like games and movies, but also for things like realistic simulations to train robots.
But what's particularly interesting, and the source definitely touches on this, is the tension this kind of tech creates, especially in creative industries. While it opens up cool new possibilities, there are some very real worries about job disruption. The source pointed to examples, like game studios may be using AI to cut corners,
Right.
and even a study suggesting over 100,000 jobs in film, TV, animation in the U.S. alone could be impacted.
Yeah, those are serious concerns. Odyssey, for their part, is explicitly saying they want to collaborate with creative professionals, not replace them. They're emphasizing that their goal is new tools, new possibilities, not just automating away human artists.
Their vision, though, as laid out in the source material, is incredibly ambitious. They basically believe that all video content as we know it, entertainment, ads, education, training, even virtual travel, will eventually evolve into interactive video, powered by tech like theirs. The idea is to unlock new forms of entertainment, new experiences, free from the old constraints and costs of making linear video.
It's a bold vision, but it's important to note the demo isn't, like, perfect yet. The company themselves says it's currently rough. You might see blurry bits, distorted environments, layouts that aren't quite stable. It's early days for the public-facing side.
But they are promising rapid improvement. Right now, it streams up to 30 frames per second, but it needs serious hardware NVIDIA H100 GPUs, and that's costly. The source estimates maybe $1 to $2 per user per hour, so not cheap yet.
No. And their ongoing research is focused on making the visuals richer, improving that temporal stability, making things stay consistent over time, maintaining persistent objects in the world, and expanding what users can actually do in these environments.
One really unique thing mentioned is how they get their training data. Instead of just scraping public video, Odyssey uses this custom 360-degree backpack camera system. They go out and capture real-world landscapes. The goal is to get higher quality, more realistic, interactive environments to train on.
Yeah, that's a different approach. And they've got some backing, $27 million in VC funding. Plus, Ed Catmull, a co-founder of Pixar, is on their board. That's a significant name. And they're actively working on software tools so creators can actually load scenes generated by these models into standard tools like Unreal Engine, Blender, Adobe After Effects, and then hand edit them. Again, reinforcing that collaboration idea.
So thinking about this for you, the listener, what does this unlock for your potential future? Imagine, like, stepping inside a documentary, exploring a location in a travel show, or having a really deeply interactive experience that feels more like a living simulation than just a typical movie or game level. This tech really aims to blur that line between passively watching and actively exploring.
Yeah, it's clear when you look at all these pieces, the huge model updates like DeepSeek, the integration into chat apps like Grok and Telegram, those strategic hardware buys like AMD getting Enosemi, and now the emergence of these interactive worlds from Odyssey. They aren't happening in isolation, are they?
Not at all. They feel like completely interconnected threads in this, like warp speed development of AI. You get a more powerful model, it demands faster hardware. Faster hardware enables totally new experiences like these interactive worlds. And then those experiences get integrated into the tools we use every day. It's like a cycle, constantly feeding itself.
It really is. The speed at which AI is being developed, integrated into our daily lives, and just fundamentally changing how we interact with digital stuff is, well, it's profound. So considering this rapid pace and the sheer breadth of areas being transformed that we've talked about, how does that change your perspective? Not just on what AI can do today, but maybe what entirely new forms of interaction, new experiences might be just around the corner. Something to think about from the material you shared.